Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski, and welcome to my 2026 guide on Abundant Shrine for the Lunar New Year event within PokeMMO. This is a really cool and unique piece of content only available for the next 11 days or so at the time of recording. It's a great way to earn Pokeyen, have fun, and play cooperatively with your friends. But it can also be quite challenging and a bit unintuitive in my opinion, so I'm hoping that this guide can set some people on a good path to start the event and the challenge, and you'll get better and better over time with more practice. Now, where do you actually get started? You can queue up for Abundant Shrine with these NPCs with the two little pigtails in their hair, located at Celadon City, Slateport City, Hearthome City, Ekrutik City, and Nakreen City across the different regions within PokeMMO. Now, I do severely recommend finding a link of 4 people to do Abundant Shrine with before queuing up for it. Solo queue Abundant Shrine is much harder than solo queue raids even, in my opinion. If you're not in a team in-game or have a group of friends to do this with, there is a chat in my Discord called Shrine Team Finder where you can meet new people to run the event with. Just make sure to try to communicate and be kind to others, as many people are learning the event for the very first time, and even those who have done it many times before, like myself, often forget and have to relearn things each year. Also, shout out to all my teammates, Alpha Darkrai, Pounder, and Sea Keller for this example run. I couldn't have made this guide without you guys. Alright, when you load into the shrine, you'll be a Ghastly, which basically means that you are a spectating ghost and you can't do anything until you select your starting Pokemon and take control of it. You'll also see little items located around the room which you can go ahead and pick up, and that will give all of them access to everybody, or everybody has access to those items. You and your 4-player group will have to choose between Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, and Keldeo. Now, it's important to note that all of these Pokemon have different strengths and weaknesses beyond just their normal typing. For example, Terrakion is the only one of these 4 Pokemon with access to Mending Prayer, probably the most important supporting move within the Shrine activity. You can use this to heal yourself and your teammates outside of battles, which is really important to sustain your HP. Because when your Pokemon faint, they're dead forever, unless you can get a revive item, but those are very rare and precious. The Abundant Shrine is all about resource management, maintaining your PP and your HP while defeating as many waves of Pokemon as possible. Now, Cobalion's main unique benefit is having the move Provoke, which can draw aggro and essentially distract the boss during the Nian boss fight. A good Cobalion player knows when to provoke the boss and distract it so that its teammates can set up their stats. And you can even combine that with Terrakion's Healing Wind in the fight to keep it healthy while it draws aggro. There's a lot of classic MMO mechanics and strategies that are employed during the Abundant Shrine. Tank, healer, and DPS roles must be thought about carefully and considered, which is not a normal part of most PokeMMO gameplay. However, try not to let all this jargon scare you away. This event does have a lot of depth, yes, but it's also extremely easy to jump into, and you only need 4 gym badges in any one region to even start jumping into Abundant Shrine, and I fully believe anybody with basic Pokemon knowledge can learn this game mode. You also don't need to be perfect or break any world records or get super far to get any sort of Pokeyen. Just doing fine enough or decent enough will make you have fun, get good rewards, and maybe make some friends along the way. But now on to Virizion, which gets Horse's Protection, which is basically a super protect that can also target teammates. So it's kind of similar to Cobalion, but instead of taking the damage or like kind of soaking up the damage, it'll just straight up protect a Pokemon, but still leave itself vulnerable if it's not protecting itself. This can obviously be a very good support tool similar to Cobalion in the boss fights, and it also lets other Pokemon set up similar to Cobalion, and of course, Virizion can also just do really good damage with its legendary stats. Now, Keldeo's unique attribute is that it gets access to Healing Wind, which is used to heal status effects from both you and your teammates, things like paralyzes, burns, and poisons. It's really important, very similar to Mending Prayer, to utilize this outside of fights whenever possible to keep yourself healthy and safe. Alright, but once you all go ahead and decide and select your starter Pokemon, you need to go ahead and choose your starting wave. Also, after, of course, picking up all the items. These items are super powerful and super strong. These are the Strength Charms and the Evolution Charms, probably the 2 most important items in the Abundant Shrine. The Evolution Charm obviously evolves your Pokemon, but it evolves it from the first line to the last line. So, for example, a Piplup evolves all the way into an Empoleon when you use an Evolution Charm onto it, and a Strength Charm gives all the EVs up to max, greatly increasing all the stats on your Pokemon. Now, it is incredibly important to mention that the bag is shared in this game mode. I repeat, the bag is shared. That means all people all use one pool of items. If possible, it is really important, not even to mention polite, to ask others before using certain items and discussing strategy. Usually, link chat is the chat room of action. The chat room used in the Abundant Shrine is usually the link chat. Now, unfortunately, of course, some people may end up misusing items because they simply don't know the mechanics, or you'll run into some people who know a decent bit about the Abundant Shrine and they know what they're doing and they want to just do quick runs. So they might just know to use certain evolution charms on a Primeape or on a Empoleon or certain things like that. And you can really trust those players, honestly, in my opinion. But generally, if someone uses an item without asking, regardless of the reason, all you can do is control yourself, right? I try to encourage, don't freak out or don't yell at them, don't be mean, right? A helpful tip can sometimes be nice, but honestly, I think the best way is just lead by example and ask. If you want to use an evolution charm or any charm, ask in link chat, hey, are you guys okay if I use this on this Pokemon? And you could even include a reason, but you don't even need to do that. Just ask before you use an item is generally polite. And thankfully, if you listen to my advice and you formed a team ahead of queuing into Shrine, you're going to be able to dodge and avoid a lot of this social drama that sometimes can be crowded in this event. But alrighty, now that we're ready to finally move on, we can go ahead and choose our starting wave, which is going to determine what Pokemon we run into first outside in the actual battlegrounds. I lightly recommend starting with the Rabbit type since these are normal type Pokemon and often very easy to kill. Plus you can unlock Spinda early, which is a very powerful Pokemon. But this honestly is still very up for debate and interpretation on what the best wave is to start with. So feel free to go ahead and experiment and try new things. But for this example run, I am going to pick Rabbit. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and pick that as well. And then you can finally head out into the battlegrounds. When you head out into the battlegrounds, you also notice a Politoed NPC. Now, it's important that the leader of the link is one of the only people who can actually interact with this properly. And you can sell certain items that you may have to get lucky gold coins and then buy more evolution charms, strength charms, or other random items from the Pokemart with those lucky gold coins, which are a specific item, obviously, to this event. Now, at the start of the Abundant Shrine, there will be groups of 2 Pokemon. So, for example, here is a Spinda, and then it also has a Baniri in the fight. Here is a Nidoran male, which also has a Spinda in that fight as well. And then whenever you run into the range of these Pokemon, similar to trainers or NPCs in the Pokemon overworld, you will trigger a fight. Now, it's really important with these fights. It is 2v2. You want to stick close to a teammate. You do not want to get stuck in a 1v2 situation. Until you have access to a second Pokemon, every body will be fighting with the cooperative closest teammate. So make sure, once again, you just stick with someone very, very closely in this early part of the shrine. Make sure to move together until you can grab a Pokemon that you eventually enjoy. Now, it's also really important to, a quick tip is to try to preserve Sacred Sword PP. The Nian boss is weak to fighting and I believe fire. So keeping PP on your Sacred Sword wherever possible is really good. These are legendary Pokemon. They're quite strong. You don't want to use not very effective moves or like low base power moves, but for example, Virizion being grass and fighting, I can go ahead and Leaf Blade into a Baniri and that's gonna one-shot it. I don't have to use the super effective Sacred Sword. This is gonna do plenty of damage. As you can see, Leaf Blade being stab damage, even though it's not super effective against the Spinda, it still does plenty of damage to actually KO it, and that saves me Sacred Sword PP for the boss fight. It's also worth noting that whenever possible, I think it is worth trying to avoid, especially these double Nidoran fights. Nidoran has access to Poison Point as an ability, and getting passively poisoned can be really frustrating early on, so trying to avoid these where possible is ideal. And you can see, once again, me and my teammate, who my designated teammate is Alpha Darkrai, we're making sure to move together, communicate, and take on fights that are pretty easy for us, like these double normal type fights. This is where we really start to just use our basic Pokemon knowledge and be smart about which fights you choose to take. If you have two Pokemon that are weak to water types, for example, avoid double water type battles, right? Simple as that. This part, it just honestly takes a lot of practice and limit testing and just sort of making mistakes to figure out what you can and can't fight as pairs of Pokemon. And in general, offense is more important during the early waves comparatively to defense, meaning as long as you can one-shot the opposing Pokemon, even if they can hit you for super effective damage, it doesn't really matter their typing. If you kill them first, they can't do damage to you. A lot of moves in this game mode have also been rebalanced to have 100% accuracy. As you can see, Mega Horn, which is normally 85%, things like Mega Horn, Stone Edge, Leaf Tornado have all been rebalanced in this game mode. I think initially this was actually just thought to be a visual bug and people were missing the 100% or 100% accuracy moves on day one, but we don't know for sure, obviously it's still so early on in the event, we think that that was due to the bug, like some sort of bug or glitch, as opposed to how the game mode was intended to be. So I think it's been fixed. I think these moves should be 100% accurate now, but I could be wrong. Now, to add new Pokemon to your party, you want to head over to this little shrine area in the top left-hand corner of the map. It's a pretty small map, so it's pretty hard to avoid. You can head over here, talk to this little building, and then see all the Pokemon you have access to. I'm going to go ahead and add Spinda to my party because I really like it for the boss fight. Spinda is probably my favorite Pokemon in the whole Abundant Shrine right now, personally. And speaking of Pokemon that are good for the boss fight, there are certain Pokemon that are good for the boss fight, that are good for wave farming, and then some that are even good for both. A good example is this Spinda. I think Spinda is pretty decent at both. You have Mega Kick on Spinda with 100% accuracy. You have Superpower and Contrary, and that is really Spinda's like claim to fame. Being able to spam Superpower, raising its attack and defense every time it uses it with a 120 base power physical fighting move is really good against the boss and just really powerful in general. Spinda also has access to Mending Prayer, which is kind of insane in my opinion on an already really powerful Pokemon in this run. And now that I have 2 Pokemon, I can go ahead and do these fights on my own, and it'll just be 2v2 with my 2 Pokemon and not having to rely on someone else following me around. But it is nice, once again, make sure you stick close to people during that early part. Also, you might notice these red bags scattered around the map. It's good to go pick those up. Those are items that can be really powerful or just kind of meh, but you want to pick up every single item because any item can be sold for more lucky gold coins to then buy the more powerful items like Strength Charm and Evolution Charm. I'm actually going to go ahead and use one of the Strength Charms on my Spinda, and this is going to boost its EV. So to show you guys, boom, now all the EVs are neutral across 85. It's going to vastly increase its bulk, speed, and damage. Now you have to clear 12 waves of Pokemon in total before you gain access to the Nian boss fight. You can see that up in the top right hand corner. You can also see your, I believe your teams. I don't know if it's your team or your personal score, but you can see your score up here, and your score will determine how many rewards you get, like red envelopes and lucky red envelopes. All right, but once you get 12 waves cleared, it's time to actually eventually jump into the boss here in a quick second. Let's now go ahead and talk about Pokemon to actually defeat the boss. We've already talked a little bit about, or a fair bit about Spinda, but once again, Spinda is really good. Being able to spam Superpower and set up its stats with plus attack and plus defense with Contrary is really powerful and a good lead Pokemon. That's what I'll be leading into this fight. You can do a similar thing with Superior and have Contrary plus Leaf Storm, or Snivy, of course, to spam and raise your stats as the fight goes on against the boss. And then Empoleon leading with Protective Aura and then spamming Scald afterwards with Competitive, which will boost its special attack when its stat is lowered. Since the Nian boss fight often has Ekans on the side or other Intimidate Pokemon, I think Empoleon, Superior, Spinda end up being some of the best Pokemon for this fight, and a Cobalion lead to provoke and draw aggro while these Pokemon set up for 1 or 2 turns is really, really strong. With just a little bit of this strategy employed, you should almost always be able to defeat the first Nian boss. The second boss is where things get a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging. You have to do a little bit of practice on your own to make sure you're able to consistently or somewhat consistently do that if you can. But if you're only trying to defeat the first boss, I think going things like Mankey / Primeape in the back with close combat is extra good fighting damage. You can also go Meditite. These really powerful, strong fighting type attackers are really good to make sure you get the first boss defeated. I also have Riolu in my backup slot for this exact option. All right, and this next part and these next suggestions actually come from someone in my Discord server called Dexton. So a huge shout out to him. This cheat sheet allowed me to propel so much of my own progress and helped me get this guide out faster to you guys. 2 to 3 years ago, when I was making PokeMMO videos from scratch, I would always have to do all of my own research and testing myself. But nowadays, thanks to players like Dexton being the backbone of the PokeMMO community and even my content sometimes, they allow us to spread this information so much faster, allowing more players to make more Pokeyen and have more fun. I cannot overthank people like Dexton enough. Here is the cheat sheet that he made up on the top of the screen right now, which puts Piplup and Empoleon at S tier because of a lot of the reasons we just went ahead and mentioned. Being able to set up both Reflect and Light Screen with that Protective Aura is so powerful and is such a strong lead to any Nian boss fight. He also mentions Typhlosion and Vulpix. Now, I have less experience with these, but he does denote Typhlosion for its high spread damage and being able to be good within clearing the waves, as well as not just the boss fight itself. And Vulpix sets up Sun and combos well with that Typhlosion pick. Snivy / Superior is just a really solid pick all around due to that Contrary combo with Leaf Storm. Now on to wave-specific Pokemon used for clearing the waves leading up to those boss fights. Pikachu is noted for its Fake Out access, which is really good at those 2 combos of Pokemon you otherwise wouldn't be able to challenge at all. Pikachu quite literally changes the levels of fights and the fights that you're available to take. Plus, Pikachu only needs a Light Ball as its item to increase its power, which is an item that can't be used by any other Pokemon, so it's a really easy slot in on him. However, Dexton properly notes that Pikachu is not good for the boss, so you do have to factor that in. It is a trade-off to rock the Pikachu slot. Trico and Torchic are mentioned as pledge users, aka Grass Pledge and Fire Pledge. These are moves that combo together to create a more powerful move when used at the same time. Pledge moves has actually been metas during similar event dungeon activities in PokeMMO, like the Elfbot dungeon event during the old Christmas events way back in the day. But I personally have very little experience using pledge moves in Abundant Shrine, so they could be busted or they could be meh. Healing options seem to still be open for interpretation, as this is only day 2 of the event as I make this guide, but I like how it talks about how a healing Pokemon shouldn't just be a healing or supportive Pokemon. It needs to have other value and other use. With only 4 Pokemon slots to work with, it's hard to dedicate a full slot to solely a support Pokemon like you could in other events in the past. Cubone is mentioned because it has Mending Prayer, plus you can give it Thick Club, but this pick honestly might depend on if you see the Thick Club item within your run. If you don't, it might be worth to browse other options like that Spinda we talked about, but once again, I think a lot of this is open to discoveries and open to decisions and personal choices depending on your run and your own personal experience. Now, before the boss fight, I also recommend selling whatever items you don't want to use and buying more evolution charms and strength charms especially. Personally, we've just been going with the strategy of selling absolutely everything. This may not be the best strat, especially early on, but once again, I think that the evolution charms and the strength charms are just so powerful to make your Pokemon at a base level more powerful versus a lot of these items being somewhat situational sometimes. I think just getting the full coins to get more charms is often better in my opinion, but maybe long term it's better to keep some of those items that raise your damage, but once again, it's hard to tell at this point so early on. With all of our items sold, we ended up with 67 lucky gold coins, and the evolution charms cost 16 lucky golds, and the strength charms cost 12. Now, keep in mind, you don't need to use strength and evo charms on every single Pokemon you have, especially early on. You want to go ahead and really save them if you need to, if possible. I am going to go ahead and use them on Pokemon that are specifically going to be really good against this first boss fight. All right, and whenever you're ready, you can find the boss right over here, and you all need to surround him and interact with him. And it should start the boss fight. Sometimes it's a little finicky from what I've seen. I don't know why it won't work sometimes. I know some people have run into that same problem. Just try to move around. I think all surrounding it usually is the best way. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's a ping thing. I don't know what causes that, but just try to interact with the boss. Eventually, you should be able to fight. It took us about 10 seconds or so. All right, the boss fight begins. We're going to start off with that protective aura on Empoleon, and then me and Superior are pretty safe to go ahead and just spam our boosting attacks, and Cobalion can go for its provoke, drawing aggro and allowing so basically me and Superior are our damage dealers. We have Empoleon as sort of our tank slash support that can also deal damage, and then Cobalion as our main tank. Now, unfortunately, as you saw there, that was actually really unlucky. Nian has this mechanic where he swallows Pokemon whole and takes them out of the fight for a few turns, and that happened right there to our Empoleon, which is probably the worst one out of all of them because now we don't have our protective aura up, unfortunately. So he also got a paralyze off on our Cobalion. So a little bit of bad luck to start, but I'm not worried about it. You can always be able to defeat the first Nian boss. It's really hard to lose to this guy with any semblance of strategy, but I understand it's a pretty difficult event to learn for a lot of people. As you can see there, my superpower ended up doing 9.2% damage. It'll just keep getting boosted as well. There should be a damage cap. I think they don't let you do more than 10% per attack, so you can't just like one-shot the Nian with some crazy broken thing. Sorry if I know the overlays are really wonky, but we're all pretty healthy here. And Empoleon takes a little bit of damage, but we managed to stay quite healthy here, and Cobalion was able to get off his his provoke. Now, unfortunately, the boss does have, you see my PP dropping even faster. The boss does have pressure as an ability. So my superpower started with 5 and now it's down to 3. A weird little quick tip slash tidbit is it's actually relevant to have your main attacks on an odd number. If my superpower was on 4, I would have only gotten 2 attacks because of the pressure ability. But since it was on exactly 5, I actually get 3, right? Same with like, if you could save like 7 superpower PP versus 6, that's a difference of 3 attacks versus 4 if I believe that correctly. So it is actually relevant to consider that, but that's kind of like super min-maxing, but it can really matter. Your PP is probably one of the most important parts during this fight. So we just keep sticking to our strategies, just stick to the plan, and you should be able to defeat the first Nian boss pretty handedly. We're taking, a bunch of paralyzes and stuff, but we're staying healthy. My Spinda is doing 10%. That is max damage per superpower. It's getting nice and strong. It has +3 attack, +2 defense, I believe. even +2 attack. My Spinda and the Superior were both boosted their attack from the Ekans, as well as if the Empoleon was near the Ekans, it was a little too far. It actually, I think it might have also already got it. It also got the plus attack boost. So I'm just going to keep following my strategy. Nothing super interesting to mention here. We're just clicking our attacking moves. Now, here, after I'm out of superpower PP, there's a decent chance that it's worth to maybe try to heal my teammates, depending on like Superior's HP, for example. But I also might just want to go for a Mega Kick and get off extra damage. It'll depend on how Superior is looking. I think it might be worth to go ahead and get a heal off. And there, unfortunately, our Empoleon got eaten again. Have we gotten our have we even gotten our protective aura off yet? I don't know if we have. This might be a super unlucky boss fight, but that's a good thing. I think it's good to show you guys like an abnormally. No, I think we got it. We have it off. We have our reflect and light screen. You can beat this boss with literally like 2 to 3 people. Like you don't even need a full team of 4 squad, right? Getting to the second Nian boss and defeating that to unlock Lucky Reds. I believe you don't start unlocking and getting Lucky Reds as a reward until you defeat the second Nian boss. That's a different story. That is difficult. That is hard. But almost everybody should be able to grind the first wave of the first boss, pretty consistently with some strategies. All right, I am unfortunately out of superpower PP. I'm going to go ahead and click Make a Kick one last time and get whatever damage off I can, since my stats are very, very boosted. But it's honestly arguable here of whether you should go for a Mending Prayer or a Mega Kick. I don't know which is best. I feel like I should do decent damage. Our Superior got off 8% damage with its Leaf Storm. Empoleon getting fully paralyzed. We're getting a lot of full paralyzes, but that's okay. Mega Kick did 8%. So I think it was worth, honestly, to get off that huge 8% damage. All right, last turn, I actually clicked Mending Prayer, and then the Pokemon that I targeted died. So this turn, I'm going to click Joyous Cheer instead, which is very similar. Instead of targeting one Pokemon, so if it misses, it doesn't just fail. It's actually going to try to heal everyone on the team by about 25% or so HP. So there are some supportive options you can use on Spinda. And I think looking back, I think I should have used Spinda much less to clear the waves. Another good tip for you guys when we're still learning as this goes on. I think I should have used Spinda a lot less to clear the waves and kept it nice and healthy and kept even more of its PP and kept it stronger for the boss specifically. All right, and with one more skull from Empoleon, there goes down the Nian boss. So thankfully, our Spinda was able to live, as well as a bunch of other Pokemon. That was a pretty solid run. Once again, showing you guys, you can get really solid runs by not playing perfectly. You don't need to be amazing. You don't need to be flawless. Just doing decent enough. And now, the next wave is going to be much harder. As you can see, there are more powerful Pokemon, including mid-level like mid-level evolutions, like Nidorinos and Nidorinas, and Wigglytuffs over here, and then 3 Pokemon per fight. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be calling it for today, since I'm not comfortable and I have not practiced enough to be able to consistently beat the second Nian boss fight. Anyone who is farther than me and has done that consistently, leave tips and tricks and comments down below. But this is just meant to be a jumping off point for a lot of players who have been trying to fight the Nian boss fight. Now, whenever you are done and you are ready to leave, you can use the teleporter crystal over here in your bag and then head over to this orange cone, and that will let you leave the instance. And now, you don't get your rewards immediately. This part is very, very important. You actually don't get your rewards immediately. You need to talk to this person and click Start New Run, and then they will get instantly mailed to you. Day 0 and Day 1, you had to wait until every single person that you played the instance with also went ahead and started a new run. And that was a big problem, and I'm really glad they fixed it. They have changed and they fixed it so that whenever you start a new run at all, as just yourself, not reliant on your teammates and other players, you do get mailed the red envelopes. So you'll get like I think 8 to 10 or so red envelopes by just getting defeating the first Nian boss, which is not amazing Pokeyen. The real Pokeyen comes from being able to defeat the second Nian boss. But worst case scenario, in my opinion, I think this activity is a lot of fun and it's really cool to improve at, and really reminds me a lot of just classic video gaming. It may not be the most pragmatic thing if you can't get to the second boss fight, but I think sometimes we over prioritize pragmatic stuff and forget that gaming is just for fun. But I understand if it's not fun for you, you know, go ahead and skip this maybe, and do things that you do enjoy during the event. But finally, that brings us to the end of our Abundant Shrine Guide for the Lunar New Year event in 2026 in PokeMMO. I put a lot of effort into scrapping this guide together, and my teammates and Dexton and everybody who helped. It was really a collective effort from the community, so thank you all so much, number one. Number two, thank you for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. If it was helpful to you, helped you get some runs done, please like the video. It takes 2 seconds. It's a great way to support. If you didn't like it, if it was not clear enough, dislike the video and leave a comment letting me know why. Subscribing to the channel for daily PokeMMO videos, as I do do upload every single day. Following me on Twitch for streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET, and usually extra streams during the events. Discord's down below if you're interested in that. If you want to go above and beyond and support the content, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal and Venmo donations really do allow me to be here. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps your PokeMMO journey during the Lunar New Year event. But for now, I will see you guys later. Have a great day. Peace, Reno. Yo, what's up? Outro Patrouski here. I wanted to take this second to say thank you so much for watching the entire video. It is thanks to people like you I'm able to make the content that I do, as well as everybody whose name is listed here. That's it for me. Have a fantastic day.